Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, welcome everybody to the Sisterhood. We welcome you in. I am your host, Michelle, here coming from Connecticut, and we have,
I'm Rochelle, the co-host is today, and I am coming from Chicago.
a very, very special guest. We have Stacey joining us today. And I want to say welcome, Stacey, to the Sisterhood and having a conversation with us. Thank you so much. So, Stacey, just to get in, I just want to just start jumping in. Can you talk about your experience in insurance? How did you get into insurance and where you are at this current moment?
Okay, so it's an interesting conversation each time I talk about how I got into the insurance industry. No one particularly goes to school and say, "Oh, I want to be in insurance," right? So after getting into it, though, that's when I thought this is the best move of my entire career. So I started out in the banking industry. Then I started working for a technology company and that specialized in voice operations. And this was in the early 2000s. So on the onset of being laid off after September 11th, because as a consultant, there wasn't much traveling happening. The world did not end after Y2K. The need for call center consulting came to a grinding halt. So I was then told about this insurance company, decided to uh, explore the role since my strong point was, or my skill set was technology dynamics, call center dynamics. I knew zero about insurance, but I proceeded to get into a role that would probably make me uncomfortable. So I thought, why not? So essentially, I did land that role in an insurance company, and here I am 20 years later in the position in with the insurance company on my third role.
Oh my goodness. I want to say thank you so much for telling us your background because both Ro and I, we just kind of fell into insurance after college. And the fact that you're coming with a technical background and coming into insurance is really, really great because we want to make sure we're highlighting that for the people in the industry when they're looking at our industry and seeing that there are different areas that you can go into and that you can do besides the sales and marketing that Rochelle and I both do on a day-to-day
Mm-hmm.
basis. I'm
Right.
Thank you so much for saying that.
And the interesting fact of bringing your skill set from banking and from a technology company as well, because people don't feel like insurance is a place they can go and bring that skill set. But it's, I think having a holistic background definitely really helps. And, there are so many different facets within insurance that you can go to. So, Stacey, thank you for sharing your background with us on that note.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was just gonna say, can you go into what your current role? Because you mentioned that you had three different roles within insurance. Can you go through each role that you've had in the company?
So at the onset, I was invited in and I led a team of frontline employees. It was an interesting role. I spent 14 years in that role, right? So when you think about what we promote in this era of keeping your skills fresh, don't get burnt out in one role. You should be looking to develop and change roles every 2 years to grow. 14 years did sort of grow on me there. However, within those 14 years in my initial role with a company, my role continued to evolve because of the background that I brought. I had such a unique opportunity to lead staff because of the technology background I brought in, working for the company with a software that the insurance company used. I had an opportunity to travel from one claim center to the next to train them on software that was being implemented to increase efficiencies across the board. So, traveled to different parts of Texas, had an opportunity to travel to Buffalo, to Connecticut again, given that I had this unique skill set, I had an opportunity to work with many different levels of leaders in the organization. And from there, also excelled in my role as a leader with my frontline staff, because of course, there's always competition at every level, but I just stepped in and figured, oh, is this all that I need to do to be the top leader in the department? Oh, of course, we can knock it out of the box. So I excelled in each piece of anything that was put on my plate. I didn't necessarily know how to even do the insurance part of it, because my strong piece was knowing how to manage the technology. But anything that I was tasked with insurance, on the insurance side of it, I always said yes and figured out a way to understand it and excel at it after. So it was an intensive training program to learn the insurance piece of the position once I got in. So stayed in that role for 14 years. There was another opportunity available in the operations side of things, still leading the frontline staff. Uh, was I really confident that I had every single piece of what the role called for? Not really, but again, I'm a risk taker, and I know I've learned to grow my career. I have to be uncomfortable, right? Because if you're comfortable, that means you know everything and you're never going to excel. So there needs to be a little bit of discomfort in your role to continue to challenge you to grow and to lead others. Got into the role, operations, leading frontline staff, spent 5 years into that role. And during the summit where we all met, what was in my mind the entire time was taking all those tools, storing them in my toolbox, because I was awaiting the decision for this new role.
Oh, and
So
congratulations,
thank you, thank
congratulations.
you, thank you. So I felt like, going to the summit, meeting other leaders, diverse set
The-
of individuals, I then came back to this new role of leading mid-level leaders. I was prepared because I've had vast experiences from outside the company, within the company, understanding the dynamics. So I'm well poised and I can pivot whatever something is placed on my plate. I'm not sure how to approach it. Then I'll have a network of individuals that I'm able to reach out to help me accomplish whatever task is given.
Okay. Absolutely. So, man, you have such a vast way array of experience. Question for you with regard to coming into the insurance industry. What were some of the challenges? I know you said, coming in to the insurance industry, there were, you didn't know insurance. So, kind of walk us through some of your challenges that you were able to overcome.
Now, each time there was a posting, because within those 14 years, even though I
Hmm.
enjoyed the many hats that I wore, there were still other positions that were interesting to me that I knew I was a good fit and wanted to jump into those roles. The barrier was always, you don't have that claim experience,
Experience.
Mm,
right? You've never handled a claim. Yes, you've been a leader, you've been backups, you've released checks, you've done all these great things, you've handled simple claims, but you do not know how to handle complex claims. My argument was always, I don't need to touch something and go through a whole investigation cycle and understand the technical pieces of it to excel. I will find a way to be excellent at whatever I'm tasked with. So I had to work to overcome that piece of it by bringing my other skills, my strong leadership skills, my strong communication skills, my strong, just innovative skills. And during this last interview, I know what worked well for me was demonstrating the innovation that I have implemented over the years to drown out the sound of, we need a strong claim background.
Mm,
So,
Right.
so,
Right.
and not to digress too much, but I think one thing that we've learned from having a pandemic for the last 2 years, we have to pivot in how we're presenting ourselves.
Mhm.
So we went from having in person interviews to interviews that were virtual.
Virtually.
So I saw that as my opportunity to pull all my innovation that I created electronically. And then when I was asked the question of why should we hire you, I fired up my screen, shared my screen. This is why I'm an expert at PowerPoint. Here's some things that I've done for employee engagement. And this is what we've used virtually. Oh, and by the way, I create technical manuals and here's what it looks like.
Mhm.
So,
mm.
all in all, gave me an opportunity just to approach things from an innovative standpoint to demonstrate why I was the best person, even though I didn't have this hands on claim knowledge that you're looking for.
Great. You talk about innovation, bringing that to the table. I think in insurance, we're very kind of typecast, right? We're like, oh, you have to grow up in insurance and have all this background in order to do the job. But you're saying, hey, you don't necessarily need that specific experience. You can take, everything in your toolbox and create what you need to, and you learn on a job, right? There's nothing that you go into that 100%. So that is awesome to hear that piece of it, overcoming some of those challenges, definitely being outside of the insurance industry, but coming in and bringing your skill set to the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's worked every time.
Fantastic.
Can't complain about that, right? Can't complain about that. So,
No.
talk a little bit about when you said you had a great toolbox so you can reach back, but talk about some of those skill gaps and how people could then fill those skill gaps from that piece of it to ready themselves for maybe, a promotion or a new opportunity from there.
So, one thing I think we need to ensure that we invest in is relationship capital. Super important in building yourself, your professional self, as well as just your professional goals. Certainly surround yourself with people who are knowledgeable in the industry. It doesn't take anything away from you as a leader who's known to be a leader and going to sit with someone in claims, a frontline employee, so that you can understand their day to day. What does it feel like to receive a new claim? How do you start your investigation? So I did a lot of that, especially when I transitioned to my second role, where it was more of an operations piece and more claim dynamics to ensure that I understood how to lead my employees and set them up for success. I did shadow with claim professionals. In addition to that, shadow with leaders. What does it look like leading claim employees? And how do you ensure that you're engaging this employee, ensuring that they're motivated so that they're delivering the best customer experience. So it's reaching out, speaking to others, networking, and outside of even the desk level, but understanding and getting to know them on a personal basis so that if I became stuck on something I was asked to do and was not sure how to execute, I could always reach out and ask for help. So definitely investing in that relationship capital.
Mm. That is some powerful stuff that you are telling us over here. I feel I don't know. Younger me is listening to this and saying, "Well, why didn't I take those risks when I was younger?" And just the comfort of being where I was as in sales and in underwriting. And then listening to what you're saying makes so much sense to older me now. and and older me is like, preach, preach, yes, just say it, just testify on this one for me, because you know as I get older, and I'm just bringing it into myself, I realize the value of that relationship capital, and that we don't need to know everything. And this is how I feel. And Ro, you can either back me up or not, but I feel like I have to know everything, and just to be taken seriously is that I have to know what I'm doing, and I have to know everything before I'm ready to go to that next level. And here you are. You can learn on your job.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think that
And
piece you made a really good point, Stacey, about that being uncomfortable. Like, in order for you to get to your next level, you have to be uncomfortable, right? And I think, Michelle, you speak to
Mhm.
the factor of, I think as women, just overall, we feel like if it's a opportunity, we have to check the boxes and it has to be 100%. Whereas our counterpart men would just feel like, I can do two things on that list, I'm applying, right? But
Mhm.
right. And so I don't know if that's a combination of we don't like to be uncomfortable, or we just have that instinctive of like, I have to be 100% perfect in order to even qualify, right? And I know a lot of times in my career path, I hadn't applied to things because I would probably 85% of the things check yes to, but then there was that 15%. I'm like, oh, I don't have it. Let me find something that'll fill this skill gap, right? Whether it's, more work with my manager, or going and taking, a class, or going to a conference to feel that way. So, Stacey, what made yourself say, you know what, I'm okay with not filling this box 100%. I'm 25% or 70%, but I'm still going to go for it.
I think just knowing that. So, my background is I came to the United States when I was 17 years old, and I'm from Jamaica. So, I always felt like I had to prove myself to ensure that I'm successful. So, I always came with that sort of chip on my shoulder. And again,
Mhm.
being in the banking industry, you're in a male dominated world. And we have other diversity issues that we're fighting against. So you come in with your gloves saying, you know what? I was born to be a leader, and I am going to ensure that whatever industry I'm in, I will excel at it. Because initially, my career started with me also being a frontline employee in a call center. And I didn't like really being on the phones because I felt like my talent could be used otherwise. So I proved myself where initially I was in sales, I was a number one. I figured out how to listen and speak to my customers to engage them and get them to say yes 90% of the times. And then I transitioned into a collections role where I sold you a credit card. Now I'm collecting from you. But my collections, I was always the highest on the floor. So initially, how I even got into being recognized as a leader is what skill sets do you have to have these customers just paying you, right? So
Mm.
I made up my own script, shared that with the call center, and our results essentially, we excelled at everything that we did. So, in switching roles, switching industries, each time I landed in a role, there was just always an internal need to always want to prove myself, to always be competitive, to always just be excellent at everything that I do. I, was a single parent raising two sons. I want them to understand that it is okay to not be the perfection, the picture of perfection that society has taught us. This is what it should look like. You will have your bumps and scrapes. It does not matter. You pick yourself up by your bootstraps and be the best at anything that you pursue in life. And that's always been my goal. So, my sons and I, outside of my insurance industry job, we have a family daycare. And that started back in 2015. And it's because I just felt like in this life, there are other people who may have struggled like I did. And I want to ensure that while I'm on this earth, I give everything that I feel like I've been designed to give. So it's in an area that is a little bit oppressed, but it's okay. And we're offering a service to people who may not have necessarily had that don't have that opportunity to have their child being in a wonderful place to blossom. So just across everything that I've done, I don't have 100% of the skill set. Again, looking at a whole um, job posting, may have 50%. I've tried for those before and I've been told no. And each time that I was told no, I would let it resonate and figure out you've got to put yourself in a position where you're never told no. Again, it does not hurt, it doesn't make anyone less of a person if they go and get a career coach. Even if you're in
Mhm.
your position for 10, 8, 9, 10 years, get a career coach. I ended up being so very successful in my interviews after I got a career coach. It was uncomfortable at
Mm.
first because here's this person giving you feedback that you think you're so great at your answers. You're really not. Here's what it should sound like. Here's what it should sound like. And I had
Like,
to sit and let that resonate and understand you're not selling yourself, right? So I think I did get, after getting a career coach 8 years in, I was successful within the 8 years of my role because I was always being recognized, but I needed to learn to sell myself. So I guess the short answer to the question is
question.
invest in yourself and get someone to help to build you up to ensure that you are checking all the boxes, even though you may be lacking in a skill set. Come strong with everything else so that you cannot be told
Yeah.
no.
Mm.
Nuggets, nice nuggets of wisdom.
Yes, nuggets. Talking about career coach and everything, investing in yourself. It's just all the things that we need to hear
Mhm.
as Black women here in this insurance industry because we definitely tamper ourselves down in a lot of ways, especially from what I observe from the sales side. Um, it's it's really hard for us to get to that next level, and I'm just speaking from experience. Ro went had the experience of managing folks, and she's managing somebody right now. But then she also went into the dark side of audit. But that skill set,
Right. It's skills. It's transferable skills.
it's transferable
Right.
skill set, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a safe. If we think about it, it's kind of safe. But here we have this powerful woman in Stacey like going for it, and I'm just so impressed, and I'm just so thankful to be able to talk to you. I'm fangirling on you at this current moment. I'm currently fangirling on you.
Right.
Like
She's our
black girl magic,
right.
like woo.
No,
Yes.
no.
Right. Absolutely. And I think Stacey too,
Yeah.
you speak about, your background coming from Jamaica, so you're not a US born citizen. So culturally things get passed there, right? And you're coming in and so it isn't just, oh, I'm a black woman, but I'm a black woman from a different country. I'm learning customs here. I'm trying to, make inroads and make my pathway here, right? And then you speak about even giving back, right? Creating the daycare so
Hmm.
that folks who may not have access to affordable daycare or having their kids in a really safe and educational environment have that opportunity. So I mean, I think what Michelle is like, hey, we're like fanning you because we're just like, oh my god, just awesome in so many facets and ways, because sometimes we think about insurance and we just think that's our life, right? And you have a full full life outside of insurance, and in even the experiences there you bring back to the table from that perspective. And so talk a little bit about, for you, what would you tell, younger folks who are potentially, kind of encouraging younger folks to even look at insurance as an opportunity, right? I know you said you just by happen went from banking to banking to a tech company and then insurance. So, we don't have a lot of generational kids coming up now who look at insurance as the way to go. So, tell us some good or great highlights for you of why you would tell, a millennial or Z why they should come into insurance.
Absolutely. So, the fortunate thing now, I know in Houston, some college level uh, courses have started offering insurance as,
Nice.
that is now in their curriculum, and that was not the case previously, right? So
Absolutely.
certainly speak to others. Again, it's all about networking. Who do you know who may be in the insurance industry? And to understand it is very diverse. You are not just getting into positions where, like you're seeing all these commercials on TV, you're trying to talk with someone about flooding in their home or a vehicle accident. Super diverse. There, you can use any career, nursing, being an attorney, finance, accounting. You can use all your education and background to come in and give a contribution to the insurance industry. Certainly not, what's the word I'm looking for? When you examine your skill set, you should be saying to yourself, I have everything this company is looking for. Forget
Right.
about all those other things on the checklist that you might not have. Be confident in yourself that what I don't have, I'm going to tell them what I am bringing
Mhm.
and will supplement everything else, the learnings later. Because for myself coming in, it's interesting that while I was in my consulting position, and I'm dating myself. In the airport, they would always have the papers with Newsweek with the little interesting blurbs
Mhm.
and stories.
Mhm.
There was something on the front page at least 2 months before I had this job of only 30% of Americans understand their insurance policy. I was one of those people. I really was one of those people. So if we
People.
are that far off in understanding just your policy, there are many people out there who have no idea what an insurance industry
Insurance
offers.
policy,
But
yes.
I would certainly advise any wise millennials, look into the insurance industry. We are thirsty, especially now in the era of the great resignation. We're looking for great talent all across the board. Bring what you have to us, and we will help you to figure out the rest of how to come in and just grow your career. No one could have told me 20 years ago that I would still be working for this insurance company 20 years later.
Yeah. That is fantastic. So we will talk about skills and keeping our skills fresh and new. But I want to just touch base on now that your current role, you are managing managers, and in this new role, it's a different. There's a different dynamic that you have there. Can you just explain the differences from what it was managing frontline people and now there has to be a strategic standpoint managing managers, and there's a bigger role that you have right now. And can you just go into that role? Uh,
Sure. So within that role, it's understanding that you're now basically in the gray because it is operations. Coming from a role where I had specific stats to determine whether or not someone is being successful, meeting a specific goal, with a mid-level leader, that is sort of out the door because we're in the business of creating strategies to ensure that once it's pushed down into the organization that they're successful. So there has to be a lot of conversations. strategic conversations, having open dialogue. Tell me, what is it that you're working on? And what is it? How do you need my support? And what strategies have you tried within the last 30 days that were successful in you leading this project? So, encouraging them to take ownership and be strategic, as well as understanding I need to ask open-ended questions. I need to understand where they are in their growth. I need to understand, like, listen for the noise of where they may be missing some critical um,
Hmm.
strategic things that they have not implemented in helping them to be successful. So again, many conversations need are taking place throughout the day, throughout the week, having that one-on-one time with them as well, encouraging them to be strategic about their development, being very strategic and being understanding that they also need to continue to grow, even though they have a gazillion things that they're working on. Your growth and always thinking about your next level role is what is going to make you a successful mid-level manager.
Hmm. And going into the whole skill set, because you just touched on it, making sure you are growing. How do you manage gaining those skills while still trying to maintain the high level performance that we expect?
Mhm. So I think going into my role again, meeting some dynamic individuals that were senior level managers in the company, in the insurance company. And I think it took me, I was taken aback thinking, how did you get into that role? Are you that much smarter than I am? You know, so I think it was a long ride from Vegas to Houston. So I spent a lot of time thinking that they never said no to anything. And in order for them to get to a VP status, they had to have demonstrated that their professional growth is light years ahead of just someone who's comfortable in their position. So I think, to answer the question, I do a lot of invest a lot in enriching myself, in ensuring that I am educating myself on the industry. I understand operationally what is happening within the company. I let's also had strategic conversations with my manager about my own growth. And I think initially I was a little bit shy, feeling like he may think I'm being very pushy. He may think, why do you think you're the best person for this? I had to forget about that. And like, it's not about him. He is a
That's good.
Caucasian male. He's okay. I am working to get to where you are and
You
beyond.
are.
So the most that you can tell me is no. However, I will ensure that I am, again, putting myself in that area of discomfort. And I remember just when I was speaking to him about the growth that I was looking for, it was an uncomfortable position to be in. I held my pen and I was gripping it really tight and saying to him, I want to be a senior leader within this role, and I need you to help me to get there. I'm looking for stretch projects. I'm looking for uh, to projects that will put me in front of senior leaders. I'm looking for the exposure, looking for on the job learnings that will catapult me to my next role. So then he had to now understand, oh, my employee is asking for all of these things. I need to ensure that she gets what she's asking for. Because within this industry, the great thing is that there's skip level meetings, and he knew that it was going to get to his boss that I'm looking for this growth. So it
Mhm.
was up to him to ensure that I had that exposure. And essentially, I was able to speak to my desire, and I knew what my growth path was. And I strategically sought those opportunities out to get that exposure. So within the position, there's no way that I could be told I was not the right fit for the position, because I did everything and more to get ready to step into that role.
I think you make a huge point there in having that conversation with your manager and having those honest conversations, because if we're not telling them that we want to grow or what you want, you're just going to be stuck where you are. And then A, you may be okay being stuck where you are, or B, you may become a resentful employee and look for
Mm-hmm.
opportunities elsewhere.
And especially now, too, I think it was a perfect time because it's all about retention.
Hmm.
You want to
It is.
retain, you definitely want to retain your talent, because even at the level that I am with my employees who I know are looking to grow, looking for that next level position, encouraging them, be strategic, invest in yourself on your calendar at least once or twice per month. Schedule time to develop yourself, schedule time to take a course, schedule time to be involved in diversity inclusion events, so that you are expanding your borders and understanding that when you become a leader of others, it's not just about the work. You need to understand their personality, you need to engage with them. It's on so many different levels that is involved in leadership, because in order for you to get the work done, you need to be able to be an emotionally intelligent leader, that you are getting to that little amygdala in their brain, letting them know, hey, I care about you as an employee. And once they know that you care, then they're more motivated to put their best foot forward. So understanding leadership is a dynamic, um, it's on many facets. It's pretty dynamic, and you need to be able to understand all those levels to be successful, not only for yourself but also to ensure that you're growing and motivating your employees.
Ugh, fantastic conversation, Stacey. Fantastic. I applaud you, and I'm just very, very happy and thankful that you agreed to come and talk with Rochelle and myself. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut the interview because of time constraints here.
Right, right.
but, but yeah, but thank you again, and I hope that we can continue this conversation in the future, because you have some great advice and great nuggets, and I applaud you, and I want to make sure that we are promoting and showing that fellow black women are up there and managing other managers and are getting into these leadership positions, because we need to promote ourselves, and we are out there, and there's other ways that we can excel here in insurance. I want to
Absolutely.
thank Yep. And I want to thank everybody who has joined us today, and know that we see you, we hear you, we are you. Welcome to the sisterhood. Thank you.
You.
Thank you,
Thank
and thank
you.
you so much for having me. This is quite an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.